I want to talk about, in this last topic for today, where we are in terms of the, as we face the 2020 presidential elections. And I know they're a ways off. Heaven knows they're a year and a half away. But it's already shaping up to be a battle, the 2020 elections, kind of between the fundamental transformation that Barack Obama pushed and the America First idea that President Trump stands for. And I say that for very serious reasons. I know, thank heavens Barack Obama's not on the ballot again, but what he was trying to do in America in the fundamental transformation has a lot to do with what we just talked about on D-Day. So to start with, when President Obama was running for office, he had a lot of very happy sounding, friendly sounding, wonderful, ideas that he was going to fundamentally transform. He got people, he was famous for getting crowds of young people stirred up and cheering him on when his speeches basically said nothing. If you ever heard those parodies, you'd have people read out loud Obama's speeches. He just got an earnest look on his face, but he said nothing. But he said profound sounding words, fundamental transformation. And people said, oh, wow, that sounds so cool. And they bought into it. They got drawn in, they got sucked in, they got duped. So we had 8 years of President Obama and his fundamental transformation of America. And I want to talk about, and why I'm on this is because Obama thought after 8 years, he would then orchestrate the election of Hillary Clinton, who would continue his radical leftist fundamental transformation of America. That's what he thought. What Obama was pushing was so radical, so leftist, but people in America duped by the idea of his alleged eloquence and his proud stance in demeanor, the way he spoke. People got duped by it. But I want to just remind you what really happened under President Obama. Because this is what he was talking about. The fundamental transformation is exactly what the left-wingers running for president in 2020 will do. And I sent my friend Matt here, the great producer, one slide. And you know what? You don't even have to be able to read those words. I'm going to tell you this information on this slide is from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. This is not Republican Party propaganda. This is not a politician's propaganda. It's the Federal Reserve's data of St. Louis. And what these figures reflect are the 8 years under President Obama. What happened? Okay, top left, student loan debt. You can see the way the chart, student loan debt, through the roof. Student loan debt went up because the government took control of the student loan program, because Obama is a leftist and taking control of everything possible in a free society is the goal of every leftist on this planet. Next slide, food stamps. The people who came to rely on food stamps, you can see the numbers, staggering, bottom left to top right, way shooting up on food stamps because leftists try to make people reliant on government. It is the purpose of leftism. It is centralized power in Washington to make people dependent on the government, to make them weak, to take away their self-reliance, to grow government's power and control over their lives. Federal debt under Obama, you can see bottom left to top right, federal debt shot up. He's not the only one. I can blame a lot of Republicans, too, on debt. But the point of this returning to the fundamental transformation mindset that Obama tried to bring, which is what all of the Democrat candidates running are standing for, this is the harsh reality of it. Okay, middle row on the left, money printing. What the left did, they used a fancy term, quantitative easing, but because the economy was so poor, so bad, they had to keep on printing money that had no value. The value go down, but they just print more. It's a fake way of solving any problem. Middle one, health insurance costs. When Obama came to power, 2008, he went for immediately the socialized takeover of our healthcare system. Went for Obamacare, first chance he had. What happened to our healthcare costs? Contrary to all the promises, healthcare costs shot through the roof. You can see again, the top right of the column. Next, we're in the middle row now, on the far right, labor force participation. drastic drop off from the top left to the bottom right. And then we're in the middle column, middle row rather, on the right. Labor force participation. In plain English, it means the number of people who are working age, who actually were working, greatly was reduced under the Obama left-wing centralized power in Washington, government-controlled economy. Nobody had a job, just like the leftists like it, because if you don't have a job, you rely on the government. Bottom column, bottom row, so bottom left now, workers share the economy. In short, this is kind of an interesting one. This is what the Obama economy was. Bottom left, the workers share the economy. What that means is when businesses are making money, businesses are doing well, so people are earning money, so you have money going into the private sector employees, the portion of money that workers received went down. The percent of the workers, of the money coming into private employment that goes to the workers diminished, meaning despite the fact the left always claims they stand for the worker or they stand for the individual and the poor worker, the fact is your economy was so poor, so bad, that the workers' share of the economy greatly diminished. Middle, or on the bottom row, middle item, median family income, again, a bit of a rise and then a drastic drop down again, because left-wing policies make people poor. Because median family income, of course, went down under President Obama, because left-wing, big government-controlled economy policies like Obama loved make people poor. Final, bottom right, home ownership, you can see again, where it starts top left to the bottom right, goes down under President Obama and left-wing ideas. So this is the reality of the economy under President Obama and the idea of what the left is pushing in this country. The other point I want to make about this whole this idea, what we have in front of us in the elections of 2020, you had President Obama come to power, took over the healthcare system, destroyed private health insurance, made it more expensive for everyone, corrupted the Internal Revenue Service because he weaponized the IRS against his political enemies, the Tea Parties who were trying to stand up for freedom. Everything about the Obama years was radical leftism. Under the guise or under the umbrella of appearing to be compassion, caring, wanting to help. And this all started with the reason President Obama embraced, and he writes about this, embraced his radical leftist ideas is because at the core, in his growing up life, he was never taught the love of America. He was never taught the goodness of America. He wrote about America as in many ways, and spoke about it as a country that was a colonial power. It was to be diminished. He wanted to reduce America's role in the world. He didn't want America to be a leader, didn't want America to stand up for freedom. He had this leftist just detesting of the idea of individual freedom, which is a core American idea. He saw America's history as bad and imperialist and colonial. He spoke of America's history as toxic. He was repeating the ideas of the American left that criticized America. So he wanted to remake America's image on the global stage, which he did. He tried to diminish America's importance and surrender to globalism and the United Nations. He massively increased centralized power in Washington. It was one of the main reasons President Trump came along and said, we're going to get rid of some of these regulations. So Trump said, for every one regulation that gets added, that the agencies in Washington had to take away one regulation. They went one step further, and for every regulation added, took away 2 regulations. Just in 1 year, the federal government reduced in 2018 100 federal regulations. That massively, this was Obama era use of the power he had to expand the administrative state, to expand the power, the centralized power in Washington by regulation, by regulatory fiat, strangling industries, strangling progress and the idea of an abundant American free market economy. We had socialized medicine take over, destruction of that. We had Dinesh D'Souza put in prison for for violating a law which others in the same era violated. Nothing happened to them, or they didn't go to prison, but Dinesh D'Souza going to prison. This is the left-wing mindset of abuse of power. If you have power, you can abuse it by using it to retaliate against and silence your political enemies. And we're going to have to wrap up for today, but I'm going to come back to this topic next week because I want to just drive this point home. America's economy is strong right now, and employment numbers are wonderful, and the unemployment rate is low for every category of a worker, and our economy is booming because of ideas. It's not the personal magic of President Trump. It is the force of him taking the right ideas and implementing them and using them and talking about them and sharing them and weaving them into our policy. But America is strong now because of freedom and the free market ideas that President Trump embraces. America was weak under President Obama because of the left-wing ideas he embraces. You can't have the left-wing ideas Obama loved and prosperity and abundance and job security and the booming economy we have right now. You can't have left-wing ideas and prosperity. You can't have Obama-era left-wing ideas and a proliferation of jobs. We have more jobs available than people available to fill them now in our country. So what we just covered about the contrast in the 8 years under Obama to where we are now under President Trump, they're economic factors, but they go to a deeper point about love of America and recognition of America's inherent goodness. Not because of skin color, race, or identity, or national identity, but entirely because of the ideas of our founding that President Trump is bringing back, reintroducing to America. The ideas of America's founding are ideas that the American left simply cannot tolerate. They do not love the America of our founding, the idea of individual liberty and self-reliance and personal responsibility. And the consequence of those ideas are the charts you saw when under President Obama's 8 years, what happens to America when you embrace left-wing centralized power in Washington.